Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a really provocative theory about politics in Iran. It comes from an analysis called the Islamic Republic's Opposition Manufacturing Factory. And, well, it basically suggests that not all opposition is what it seems to be.
And that gets us right to the central puzzle this source is trying to figure out. You know, in a political scene that's just buzzing with criticism, how on earth do you tell who's genuinely fighting the system and who might just be a part of it?
So to really get this theory, we first have to kind of break down what we think we know. What an opponent of the regime actually looks like. The source here argues that the old rulebook, it's been completely tossed out.
I mean, just think about it for a second. What are the signs we usually look for? Somebody living abroad, criticizing the government. Or maybe someone who goes all out and insults the supreme leader. Or for sure, a former political prisoner. These all feel like pretty solid, clear signs of the real deal, right?
Well, according to this analysis, no, not anymore. It claims things have gotten so twisted that even regime loyalists are offering up criticism these days. So a harsh word, or even doing time in prison, is no longer that guaranteed stamp of authenticity.
Which leads us straight to the most explosive claim in the entire piece. If the old signs don't work, it's because there's a whole new game being played.
And here it is. The theory says that the regime's best new tactic isn't to shut the opposition down, but to actually build its own. It's kind of like a strategy of containing a fire by creating a controlled one. This factory metaphor, that's the engine of the entire theory. It's not just a random idea, it's suggesting there's a systematic, almost industrial process for making these fake dissidents. Each one designed and rolled off the assembly line for a very specific job.
The way the source lays it out, the old tactics, propaganda, blaming foreigners, they just don't work anymore on a public that's seen it all. So the new logic is, if you can't defeat the opposition, then you create a version of it that you secretly run yourself.
So how would a factory like this actually work? This is where it gets really fascinating, because the analysis gets super specific. It lays out a step-by-step blueprint for how to manufacture a fake dissident, and it gives him a name, Mustafa. The source describes it like a 6-step recipe to cook up a hero. First, Mustafa pops up on a talk show, says some tough stuff. He's put up against a really weak debater, so he looks super bold. Then, boom, clips of his bravery go viral online. Next, you get this sort of controlled outrage from state media, followed by a dramatic arrest, and of course, a #FreeMustafa hashtag. And then the final step. He's quietly let out on bail. Just like that, the product is finished and delivered. A certified opposition hero that people trust.
And the theory doesn't just stick with hypotheticals. The source gets pretty sarcastic here, extending the factory metaphor to label actual public figures as different car models. It claims the old models, they had basic features, but the new ones, they come with fancy upgrades like self-driving with auto brake or red line lane assist. It's a really powerful way of saying these figures are supposedly designed to push the limits, but to automatically stop before they cross the regime's real red lines.
Okay, so why? Why would you go through all this trouble to build these super elaborate characters? The source argues there is one single ultimate goal for the whole operation, and it's all about the Trojan horse.
This is the moment, according to the source, when the product gets activated. After months of building up credibility, of saying all the things people are thinking, we suddenly see what the analysis calls an engine defect. But really, it's not a bug, it's the feature they built it for.
And right here, this is the guts of the whole Trojan horse strategy. All that criticism of the regime, that's just the shiny exterior. It's what gets the horse inside the city gates. The real mission, this theory claims, is to pivot at the most important moment and attack the leading alternative, a figure the source identifies as Reza Pahlavi, and cause chaos and division among the regime's actual opponents.
As the source puts it, this is where the investment finally pays off. The whole point of manufacturing these figures, it claims, is to plant an agent deep inside the opposition's camp, ready to attack the most organized threat to the regime's power right when it matters most. But the theory doesn't stop there. It takes one final turn. In its conclusion, the source claims this entire, elaborate factory is now going bankrupt.
And it points to a few signs of this so-called bankruptcy. It claims the public is just getting wise to the game. And at the same time, the real opposition is getting more unified. So these overnight heroes just aren't as believable anymore. The analysis even goes so far as to argue that supporting the main alternative has now become a kind of litmus test for who's real, making the fakes much easier to spot.
So the bottom line of the theory is that the factory's whole business model is basically obsolete. Its products, it argues, just aren't selling like they used to, because the customers, the public, are getting way too smart.
And that, right there, brings us to the final, really critical question this whole analysis leaves us with. It makes a compelling case that this factory is going out of business. But you have to wonder, is the strategy really over? Or is the factory just quietly retooling, getting ready to launch a brand new, even more sophisticated model that we haven't learned how to spot yet?